pleasure to be with like-minded individuals in a freedom community. And one of the things that we've been working on we've been in business 26 years, is building intentional communities. Communities for people who want to be together because they enjoy the company of one another. They share common ideals and visions. And this is really, really important. And this is why we're here, right? We're here because we want to be around other people who we can share with from a heart level. I don't know how many, I mean, here are lots of countries. I know we have Germany and I have Norway, he left a minute ago, but I mean, we're from all over. And my question really is, when you go home to wherever home is, and you walk down the street or you go to the restaurant or you see some people, are there really any people who you can talk with? Is there really anyone near you in your local area? And I know that in my area the answer is no. Right? And I think for many of us the answer is no, which is why coming to something like this, like Floating Man or coming on the Danube cruise or other events where we can be with people who we enjoy the company of, we can share from the heart. This is why we come to this. And what's been so special in my career, my 26 years now as building this company, is that we build villages for people like us. We build villages where we can get together and we can enjoy the company of one another. We don't have to worry about what we say. People aren't going to look at us like we're strange. We are probably, but that's okay. You know, and when we do this, we find a peace of mind that is powerful. It's powerful and it's significant. And so what I'd like to talk about today are 3 forms of freedom. And I was really trying to figure out how to say these in a positive sense earlier today, and I couldn't. And so if folks have, after this, if folks have some ideas of how I could say this in an affirmative sense, I would love this advice. But the 3 freedoms, and Samuela talked about the first one, the freedom from location. The freedom from location, that's the first one. Freedom from coercion, and then the freedom from mistakes. Right? These are the 3 freedoms I want to talk about, and I think they kind of roll, the highest level. Freedom from location is the first, and the thing I would like to just have us pause and think about for a moment is, this is truly an epical time in the history of the world. For the first time in human history, many of us have the ability to work from wherever we want. Samuela talked about that. I mean, Drew's running around the world, right? I mean, and many of us embody this, right? But this is huge. I mean, think all the way back to the caveman, right? Caveman, they had to go out and kill something, or the hunter and gatherer. You had to physically be present to gather things, right? And then we settled down in agricultural communities 15,000 years ago. But we still had to be there to tend the land, right? We were physically present. And then about, 1750s to about 1820, we had the Industrial Revolution, right? So we went from agricultural to industrial. But we still had to show up and work a machine at the factory. We physically had to be present to do our job. Well, in 1974, a guy by the name of Daniel Bell came along, and he coined the word, or he didn't coin it, but he made it really popular, post-industrial society. 1974, post-industrial society. He got the concept. Then you had people like Nesbitt and Toffler who came along and wrote some books about this new idea, this big vision of how we were going to change society, because we had all this technology that would let us work from home or wherever we wanted to work from. But what happened? I mean, 1970, 1980, 90, 2000, 2010. Shit, I mean, we got all the way to 2020 before, thank you, COVID. Thank you, COVID, right? Because all of a sudden, we had this incredible cultural breakthrough. Right? Yes, we had the technology in the 80s and the 90s, and it probably wasn't that good, but so many people got in their cars literally and drove an hour or 2 to an office to talk on the phone. Now, isn't that but the dumbest thing, right? Or work on a computer, right? And then they get in their car and they drive home, 2 hours. Talk about wasted productivity. But the cultural management of work was such that the bosses said, if I let you go home, you might watch Game of Thrones all day, right? Or take a nap, and you might do something else and not work. And if you're the employee and you say, hey, I can make my phone calls from home, let me do that. You were afraid. And you were afraid because if you did that, your boss might not give you the promotion. You might not get the raise, right? They might fire you. So the employees were concerned about that. The bosses were concerned about management. Can we manage people if we can't see them, right? Well, thank you, COVID. It's over. And what we have found, the data is in. The data shows clearly that people are more productive working from where they want to work from. More productive. And you know what else that's really cool? We also get to spend more time doing the things we like. We get, instead of that 2-hour commute or hour each way, maybe we burn an hour of it for an hour of extra work, but we spend another hour at home with our families or doing something we enjoy. That is win-win. We have broke through this barrier. That is the freedom from location, freedom from coercion, right? When we become free actors and we're freed from location, we can now pick the place that we want to live that gives us more freedom, less coercion. And so we pick these places, right? I mean, and there are many of them around the world, right? And what's so cool about it is, for the first time ever, we have this opportunity. And I'm a big fan, and we've talked about this around a few people know, I lived in Nicaragua. I lived in Nicaragua for 14 years. And it's actually one of the freest countries that I know of, which sounds kind of crazy. People think, Nicaragua? I'm like, yeah, Nicaragua. They never mandated business lockdowns. They never mandated masks. They never closed any businesses. They never made vaccines a mandate. They were the freest country that I know of in the Americas, right? It's incredible. And so it was a freedom from coercion. And so a lot of people in this freedom community have chosen Nicaragua as a place to live. Again, there are lots of considerations, right? There's weather, there's neighborhoods, there's communities. A lot of things come into play, of course. But at the end of the day, if we're looking for freedom, there are freer countries for most of us than our home countries, and we now have the permission to go and live there. And the last one is really this freedom from mistakes. This one's a weird one. This one's an interesting one. Because I've been doing this for 26 years, I like to say that I've paid a lot of tuition, right? I've made a lot of mistakes in 26 years of living, working, building properties, selling properties, acquiring properties overseas, outside my home country. See, when we're in our home countries, we're on the home turf. We understand the rules. We understand the process. We understand how things are going to happen, and we're in that comfort zone, right? When we go outside our home countries, all of a sudden, like, we're on somebody else's turf. We may or may not know the rules. And one of the things that really trips us up, I have two sayings, right? We don't know what we don't know. I didn't invent that one, but we don't know what we don't know. And the other thing is, we have to forget what we think we know. Assumptions are very, very dangerous when we go overseas. Because just like it feels maybe comfortable, it really might not be what we think it is. And so when you take the two together, we don't know what we don't know, and we have to forget what we think we know, and you merge them, what we're really talking about is an attitude of humility. When we go overseas to transact any business transaction, and in my case, it's real estate focused, we're going to buy a home overseas. For many people, this is the largest transaction they will ever have in their lives. They're going to buy a home for several hundred thousand, million, whatever it is, right? Euros, dollars, right? It's a huge transaction. And for many people, it is by far the largest they will ever do. Doesn't it make sense to get it right the first time? Like, let's get it right the first time, right? And this is the freedom from mistakes. And the one thing I would just call out, and we offer this resource. This is a resource that we offer. It's their consumer resource guide. This is a shortened version. We have a 100-page download document. It is a great resource. If you are Czech and you're buying a property in Taiwan, if you're Taiwanese and you're buying a property in Czechoslovakia, vice versa, if you're US and you're buying a property in Latin America or Europe, it doesn't matter. You're outside your home country. And this consumer resource guide helps us be really smart consumers when we buy property outside our home turf. So easy to get one. Send me a note, @ecidevelopment.com. If you send an email to lieberland@ecidevelopment.com, we will send you the link to download the 100-page version of this consumer resource guide. And it will do for you what we have literally spent 26 years screwing up, paying tuition, and then documenting it so people who come after us don't have to make the same mistakes.